Do you remember reading the script for the for the movie for the first time?
Yeah, well, the first time I read it, I didn't really read it. They wanted to hire me for it at the beginning, and I didn't know this. I was doing Teen Wolf, and I was like thinking my career was over. And and they were talking, Steven Spielberg and Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale were talking to Gary Goldberg at Family Ties about letting me out to do this movie. And Gary couldn't let me out because we had too many shows to do, and this show was just starting to do well, and he didn't want to lose his actor. So he didn't tell me about it, but he just declined. And so they started to make it with another actor, and they shot for 5 weeks. And it was a really good actor, Eric Stoltz, but it just didn't work out. And so they went back to Gary and said, "Can we see him? Can we have him now?" And Gary said, "I think we can make it work now." And so I went to Gary's office, and he had a script in an envelope. And he said, "Why don't you read the Steven Spielberg and Bob Zemeckis, why don't you do this movie?" And I told him you couldn't do it, but now I'm letting you do it if you want to do it. So read the script. And I picked up the envelope, and I went, "That's the best script I ever read." And Gary said I could do it as long as I did Family Ties in the daytime. Just showed up regularly and did my work, and then he said I could do it at night.
So in the morning you were on the set with the Keatons, and then you go to the hoverboard at night.
So welcome to Trimming the Movie Fan, a podcast where we trim films from franchises that don't belong. I'm Stephen Nicholson.
And I'm Paul Nicholson.
And today we're going back and forward in time to revisit a beloved movie trilogy, Back to the Future.
You haven't seen the Back to the Future trilogy until you've watched it on Blu-ray.
Whoa, this is heavy.
There's that word again, heavy. Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull?
Universal Pictures brings to you...
Hello? Think, McFly!
...the most timeless trilogy ever.
I finally invent something that works!
Each film in the groundbreaking franchise on Blu-ray.
Great Scott!
Back to the Future.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Back to the Future Part 2.
Smile, Doc.
Back to the Future Part 3. Featuring high-definition picture.
Everything looks great.
And theater-quality sound.
Great Scott. I know, this is heavy.
Each film includes hours of bonus features, plus interviews with the cast and crew.
Okay, let's shoot.
From director Robert Zemeckis and executive producer Steven Spielberg, Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly, Christopher Lloyd as Dr. Emmett Brown.
Back to the Future is an American science fiction comedy franchise created by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale. The franchise follows the adventures of a high school student, Marty McFly, and an eccentric scientist, Dr. Emmett Doc Brown, as they use a DeLorean time machine to time travel to different periods in the history of the fictional town of Hill Valley, California.
Great Scott!
Good evening. It's Dr. Emmett L. Brown, and this is my time machine.
A time machine?
You're a slacker, McFly. Face it, you've got no future.
I gotta get back in time. 1955?
Hey, McFly. I thought I told you never to come in here.
If they don't meet, they won't fall in love, they won't get married, and neither you nor your siblings will ever be born.
You don't need money, don't take fame, don't need no credit card to ride this train. It's strong and it's sudden and it's cruel sometimes, but it might just save your life. That's the power of love.
So we've jumped in our DeLorean and are ready to hit 88 miles per hour, taking us back to 1985 and the first Back to the Future movie.
Steven Spielberg presents Back to the Future, a Robert Zemeckis film. Marty leads an ordinary life.
No McFly ever amounted to anything in the history of Hill Valley.
Well, history is going to change.
And 1985 is not his year. But Dr. Brown is about to change all that.
Are you telling me you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
He's sending Marty 30 years back in time.
It works! It's a flying saucer from outer space!
Now, he's trapped in the past.
It's gotta be a dream.
About to meet
chocolate.
His future father.
He's a peeping Tom.
Wow!
And he's making an impression on his mother.
It's an absolute dream. And he can sleep in my room.
Anything you do could have serious repercussions on future events.
Now, he's got to make his mother and father fall in love.
For crying out loud, I haven't even been born yet.
And only Dr. Brown can help him get back to the future.
Are you telling me that this sucker is nuclear?
Precisely.
Michael J. Fox.
Whoa, this is heavy.
Christopher Lloyd.
There's that word again, heavy. Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull?
Back to the Future.
Eric Stoltz played the original Marty.
That's right.
And they released all that footage, I guess, in the Blu-ray and everything. Did you know that was going to have to change?
I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea. I think most people didn't. You know, I mean, it was 6 weeks into shooting.
Right.
6 weeks shooting.
Strange thing to do.
Yeah, and we were out in that industrial, the City of Industry, a huge mall, night after night for about 3 weeks, and shooting, and everything seemed cool. He was very good. It's just that they needed to have a comic, somebody with a more comic flair, you know, like Michael.
Yeah.
And so they made the switch, but he wasn't like giving a lousy performance. You know,
there was just whatever that wasn't clicking with the character.
Yeah, and he's a very good actor, really good actor.
Yeah, it's heavy and it's funny. Just hope you got it there. Those two people that he was trying to put up together at the lockers, those were his parents as teenagers. Now, this relationship is played out in the film for laughs and for sexual danger, the relationship between him and his mother, and even at the end of this film, for some teary emotion. What would you say, if you think about it, meeting your mother as a teenager? What would you feel if you saw your parents as young people? What a thrill that would be. And this film, rather than being helter-skelter action picture, which it could have been, holds on that moment. I credit the director, Bob Zemeckis, for having the sensitivity, the smarts, to make this something bigger than just a laugh-a-minute special effects picture. There's a real heart to this film. Back to the Future has all that emotion, a most clever and funny and interesting script written by Bob Zemeckis and his partner, Bob Gale. And the writing here, I think, is really the star. This script couldn't have been ruined if it had been directed by the director who did Red Sonja. If it had starred the cast of Red Sonja. So I guess I've made my point. Back to the Future receives my highest recommendation as a film.
Pretty good screenplay. And like all good screenplays and all good movies, it starts out with something of universal interest, which is, in this case, what would it be like to meet your parents, as you pointed out, when they were kids? Because I think everybody grows up thinking, my parents were never young. And the fact is, the parents, this is the secret parents have from kids, they don't think they're ever old.
Right, of course.
And so this movie plays with that paradox in such a beautiful way that it's not just a time travel picture, not just an action picture. I agree with you. It's a picture almost like Frank Capra would have made, in which the underlying message of this communication between the generations is kind of beautiful.
I hope that this title, Back to the Future, doesn't put off adults, or even when I said in the beginning, teen and time travel and young adult, I can't imagine anyone not liking this film. I really think this is a very special picture.
I mentioned Capra. You know the Capra picture it reminds me of? You can probably guess. It's a Wonderful Life.
You bet.
Because here's a case, once again, of somebody finding out through some kind of magical intervention that things aren't so bad.
Back to the Future was released in 1985 and directed by Robert Zemeckis. In this 1980s sci-fi classic, small-town California teen Marty McFly, Michael J. Fox, is thrown back into the 50s when an experiment by his eccentric scientist friend Doc Brown, Christopher Lloyd, goes awry. traveling through time in a modified DeLorean car, Marty encounters young versions of his parents, Crispin Glover, Lee Thompson, and must make sure that they fall in love or he'll cease to exist. Even more dauntingly, Marty has to return to his own time and save the life of Doc Brown. The movie grossed $190 million domestically on a budget of $19 million. So it made over 10 times its budget and was the highest grossing movie domestically of 1985. Ratings-wise, it has a 93% fresh Rotten Tomatoes score, 95% Rotten Tomatoes audience score, an 8.5 out of 10 IMDb audience rating, and 87 out of 100 critic Metascore. Here's a fact for you. The movie's script was rejected 44 times before finally being greenlit. And here's a movie mistake, kinda. When Marty is being chased by terrorists, Eric Stoltz is playing Marty. Michael J. Fox was later chosen over him, but they kept the driving scenes at the mall with Stoltz in, since the shots were fairly distant and the driver's face is not particularly visible. In summary, inventive, funny, and breathlessly constructed, Back to the Future is a rousing time travel adventure with an unforgettable spirit.
So, Paul, Back to the Future, I think your favourite movie of all time, yeah?
Yep, certainly up there. Yeah, just brilliant film, iconic, and it still looks good even today. And I think even though it's about time travel, it's not dated, funnily enough. Funnily enough, because it's went back, it's not dated.
So what does it for you? What's so great about the movie?
It's just, a great cast. It's just, there's a good mixture of science fiction, humour, and just things that are quite, like thinking like your mum might your mum fancies you, like going back into the past. It's just all that humour and what I would say, although I'm saying it's not dated, you couldn't make that film today, sadly.
No, not a chance.
So it's just brilliant. And the music as well. The music, it's just really clever and just a really good, you've got Marty McFly and Doc Brown, just a brilliant connection with those two, Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox. And just classic. What about you?
When did you first see it?
When did I first see it? It was actually my friend David. So I'd heard about it at school, remember, but I didn't really know what it was. And then one day he had the video, it was a copy, I think, and he let me borrow it. He said, "Oh, you like this film?" And then I watched it on video and just fell in love with it. I just thought it was absolutely amazing. And the bit at the end made me want to go, I can't wait till they do a sequel. And just loved it from then. And just something about it.
How many times over have you bought this trilogy on different media formats?
Good question. So video, VHS, then DVD, then Blu-ray. Then I think I bought in another box set as well, Blu-ray, and then digitally, and then it was upscaled to 4K. So that was, quite a few different formats there.
Universal's got your money multiple times.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for me, right now I agree with you. It's one of the greatest movies of all time. And I think I first saw it when maybe rented a video back in the 80s, and I've been lucky enough to subsequently see it at the cinema a few times. I think we went maybe to a trilogy showing.
Yeah, and the third one came out.
If memory serves. I went to see all three back to back, and I'm sure I've seen it again at a retro showing a couple of years afterwards. And in 2019, I think it was, maybe at Usher Hall, when the movie was played with the Royal Scottish National Orchestra, playing the score.
I was there, wasn't I?
Which was great to see. I'm sure you were, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But classic.
I mean, it all starts from a fabulous, note perfect script from director Robert Zemeckis and the producer Robert Gale. I mean, it's witty, it's clever, it's engaging, and really, as we've mentioned already, quite daring. Marty and the young version of his mum. I mean, it could come across as creepy, but the way it's done and directed, they get away with it. One of the things that I really like about the movie, and this kind of carries through the sequels as well, that you're subtly being fed information that comes into play later on.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, the Doc has stolen the plutonium. A newspaper says that he had to sell his land. That Mayor Goldie's seeking re-election in 1985.
Mayor Goldie was.
The clock tower's broken. Marty's dad's a loser, so we're getting fed all this information, which is going to come back into play later. And there's also clues foretelling going on everywhere as well. So something like at the end, when Marty goes back, Twin Pines Mall is now called Lone Pine Mall. Because of the incidents that have taken place when he's been back there. So, and that is really, really good stuff. And I think the other thing which maybe makes it chimes with people is it brings into question what we think our parents were like when they were younger versus what they're really like. You know, I think Marty's mum saying, "Oh, I wouldn't be in, in age 5. I wouldn't be in a park car because I wouldn't drink, I wouldn't smoke, and all that kind of stuff." And then we go back in time and see that she does all of that, and she's actually a complete hypocrite.
I know. Parked car with a boy. How am I supposed to meet anybody, Mum? It'll happen for me. It'll happen for you just like for me.
Full of it. But Alan Silvestri has produced one of his greatest, most enduring scores as well, featuring obviously the classic main theme and that the kind of Back to the Future motif that plays, which he used again in Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One when the Zemeckis cue was brought into play. They used that in there, which was a nice little nod to it. And as you've mentioned already, I mean, the casting of this movie is spot on, whether it's the leads or the supporting characters. I mean, Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd were just born to play Marty and Doc, and it's one of those things. How much must the filmmakers have been congratulating themselves for getting rid of Eric Stoltz, who I think they'd done, was it 3 weeks of filming already? And then
maybe even
it
more.
wasn't working with him as Marty.
Yeah.
And decided it wasn't working. It didn't have maybe that comedic touch or light touch that it needed. And they got rid of him and brought in Michael J. Fox, who I believe was their first choice anyway, but they couldn't get him because of his Family Ties TV commitments, so they managed to get him.
But it was crazy, his schedule, because he's done a few autobiographies, and I think he ended up with some drug problems as well, because the schedule, he would basically do Family Ties, get picked up at maybe 7:30 in the morning, and start Family Ties right until the afternoon. Then he'd basically get picked up, maybe have something to eat, get picked up by the limo, taken to Universal to do Back to the Future, because if you notice, a lot of the stuff was filmed at night, because that was when he was available, like Twin Pines Mall and the clock tower and stuff like that, because that was the only time they could get him. So, I mean, and then he'd get home at maybe 4 in the morning, 3 or 4, and then he'd be up again at 7 to do Family Ties. It's crazy schedule, but I mean, he got through it, but probably at a cost. When you're young, you're invincible.
Even just remember his lines for 2 different shows that are running concurrently. But it was the right choice. I mean, obviously it's the role that's defined him. He's just pitch perfect in it. But I mean, you've got others in there. Nick Thompson as Lorraine, Crispin Glover as George McFly, Tom Wilson as Beth, who's brilliant throughout the entire trilogy. He's great. Appearance for Dead Cam and Titanic's Billy Zane as one of Biff's kind of friends. And he was back for the sequels as well.
That's right.
And also got a couple of Huey Lewis classics in there too. And he has obviously a funny cameo in the movie as well. You're just too damn loud.
You're just too darn loud.
And, I'm just rewatching it for doing this. First time I've watched it in a good number of years. The thing that's on about it, it's just a really, really, really funny movie.
It is. The humour's a big part of it, definitely.
It really is. It is. It's just a really funny movie. On top of being very clever and nostalgic, and it's got so many good things going for it. So we're going to rank all the Back to the Future movies today: top, middle, or lower tier, B, T, T, F. Well, probably no surprise where we might put this one, but where would you put the original 1985 movie, Paul?
Top of the top.
Yep. Top tier for you, and it is also top tier for me.
Do you remember the future?
You've got to come back with me. Where? Back to the future.
Are we back?
We're back.
What do you mean we're in the future?
October 21st, 2015.
Marty, we're gonna be able to see our wedding.
Wow. The future. I gotta check this out, Doc.
Look what happens to your son.
He's a complete wimp.
Don't talk to anyone. You've been looking, Bob.
Hey, look!
Don't touch anything.
I need to borrow your hoverboard.
And try not to look at anything. I didn't invent the time machine to win at gambling.
I can't lose.
I invented the time machine to travel through time.
Hey, Doc, I'm all for that. What's wrong with making a few bucks on the side?
Now, the time continuum has been disrupted, creating an alternate 1985.
There have been a few changes.
It's like we're in hell or something.
No, it's Hill Valley, although I can't imagine hell being much worse.
But they'll all be back.
Eat less, slackers!
Biff?
Hello? Hello, anybody home?
Well, it can't be you. You're so big.
Michael J. Fox. Christopher Lloyd. Michael J. Fox.
More like a couple of teenagers, you know?
And Michael J. Fox.
Mom, is that you?
Steven Spielberg presents a Robert Zemeckis film, Back to the Future, Part 2. Coming November 22nd to theaters everywhere.
Future, the thing people ask you about most? Of
Yeah,
all the
especially
many things?
lately.
Yeah, especially lately, sure, yeah.
But I get all these questions about hoverboards and flying cars, and I would say that the one thing that they really got right was Marty McFly's receding hairline.
They really didn't. You know, this is what you were supposed to look like. They predicted you'd look like at 47 years old. And I have to say, they had you like a young Donald Trump. It looked like it's... And the two family ties there around the neck, that never really caught on either.
It does kind of look like Donald Trump.
Yeah, it does. There is a Donald Trumpiness to it.
Huge!
Back to the Future Part 2 is not as good as the original 1985 film. It doesn't have the genuine human emotion of the earlier film when Fox tries to fix up a date between his own parents so that he'll be born, but it is a goofy and screwball movie, and I enjoyed it for what it is rather than in comparison with the earlier film.
Well, I had the same reaction to the comparison of the two. The first film had a heart to it, and I don't think there's any reason why a screwball comedy couldn't take time out to have heart. In other words, I think this film would have been helped a great deal if it had a little heart to it. I think it would have been true to the original picture. Instead, I found this to be very gadget-filled and really noisy in an unpleasant way, so that when I was watching it, I was seeing a lot of slapstick, a lot of racing around, and the character of Biff, the enemy of Michael J. Fox, is really the star of this second picture. I think the movie could have been called Biff in a way, because it's really, he dominates the whole action. And the Michael J. Fox character and his relationship with his parents, it's really just not there. The father isn't even there. And so I really found it kind of unpleasant to watch in a way. And I was looking forward to it, but it didn't enjoy it at all.
I think maybe it will suffer because people remember that the first movie really did move them emotionally. This is an entirely different different movie.
And not as
with
good.
An entirely, and not as good, but still okay.
Not for me.
Oh, yes, I'd recommend it. I'd recommend it for exactly what it is. And one of the things I liked was Christopher Lloyd racing around back and forth through time. He changes something here, it comes out different there, he moves back here. Michael J. Fox steals the almanac in the future. Biff gets it from Michael J. Fox, goes back to 1955, that changed 1985.
Yeah, right,
They're
right.
racing around, and that's really the charm of the movie, is it just in its zaniness.
Except that when I started to talk about the noise factor of the film and the physical action, hard action, you seem to be nodding in agreement that that's sort of unpleasant.
No, well, of course, it's a noisy, action-filled film. What's wrong with that?
Well, when the noise doesn't mean anything to you,
Well,
then
it
it doesn't.
something to me.
Not to me.
It wasn't that noisy.
Back to the Future Part 2 was released in 1989 and again directed by Robert Zemeckis. In this zany sequel, time-traveling duo Marty McFly, Michael J. Fox, and Dr. Emmett Brown, Christopher Lloyd, return from saving Marty's future son from disaster, only to discover their own time transformed. In this nightmarish version of Hill Valley, Marty's father has been murdered, and Biff Tannen, Marty's nemesis, has profited. After uncovering the secret to Biff's success, a sports almanac from the future, Marty and the Doc embark on a quest to repair the space-time continuum. The movie grossed $118 million on a budget of $40 million, so it made almost 3 times its budget and was the 10th highest-grossing movie domestically of 1989. Ratings-wise, the movie has a 63% Rotten Tomatoes score and 85% audience score. It has a 7.8 out of 10 IMDb audience rating and a 57 out of 100 critic Metascore. Here's a movie fact. This was the first film appearance by Elijah Wood. He plays one of the 2 video game boys to whom Marty speaks in the Cafe 80s near the start of the film. And here's a movie mistake. When Biff gets his car back after manure cleanup in 1955, the detailer's truck has a taillight from a GM van from the 80s. In summary, Back to the Future Part 2 is far more uneven than its predecessor, but its madcap highs outweigh the occasionally cluttered machinations of an overstuffed plot.
So, Paul, I think we both remember seeing this back in the day in a family cinema trip to the ABC, whatever it was called at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, on Lothian Road here in Edinburgh. November 89, was it?
89, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So yeah, what's your recollections of it?
I was really, really excited because to the end of the first one, didn't realise till much later that actually the end of the first one was just meant as a joke. They weren't going to do any sequels. It was just meant as a joke, but obviously it became like a phenomenon. So they made it. So I knew that they'd done 2 and 3 back to back. I didn't know how long the gap was going to be because I think originally they maybe said a month or something. It turned out to be like almost half a year. So I was really excited, really. In fact, so I think I went to see it 4 times.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. But yeah,
What
really
were excited when you're after doing watched it the first time?
I thought it was really good, but it was almost at the end. I don't know, a bit of a... Because it had the Wild West bit, and they're like coming summer 1990, and you're like, oh, could it have to be that long? So you felt a wee bit cheated in a way, because the story was still continuing, but I really liked it. Really liked it. I remember... I don't think Dad liked it. He thought it was a bit too... Because it's, in a way, it's ahead of its time, in a way, no pun intended, because you've got... Somebody's going back into another film, you know, in the present film, and it's going to, you know, so it's quite clever in a way, but I think for some people it was too much, maybe. At the time, it was a bit too much.
Really?
Yeah. But I really like it. Really liked it. I mean, it's not a patch on the first one, but funnily enough, the stuff that's in 2015, which is unbelievable to think that's 9 years ago now, you know. What's funny is that we're talking about the first one there. I'd say this one's dated more than the first one, even though it's 4 years later. And I think that's because they're going to the future, and that dates it because it's not actually what it actually became in it. Yeah.
And for me, that's actually not that it's bad, but I mean, this particular movie is split really into 3 parts, which are the time periods, which is the future 2015, the alternative 1985, and the 1955 again.
Yeah.
And for me, 2015 is the weakest of those three parts to the movie.
Yeah.
Not least that we're now in 2024, and we know that in 2015 there is no, Jaws 3, no flying cars, self-driving quotes, or police officers with digital displays at the front of their hats, and we don't have fax machines in every room sending us, messages and stuff. So, and even the fashion stuff, and
double ties.
Well, obviously they're making this in 1989, so then, they don't know what it's going to be. So they're speculating, but it does date the movie.
One thing they do get,
watch it now, and it does seem.
One thing they do get right is the almost like Zoom. When he's speaking to that person, it's almost like a video call. When he gets fired by that. So that is one of the things that has come true, but majority of them haven't.
Yeah, I mean, on the whole, that sequence is a bit hokey now, I would say. But yeah, I mean, coming back to when I seen it, I remember I was looking forward to it as well, and we were leaving the cinema, and I was kind of disappointed with it there. And although I think over the course of time, I do appreciate it a bit more. And yeah, I mean, one of the things just rewatching it, which I thought, obviously we're rewatching this in 4K now, I thought a lot of the wigs and the makeup, when you look at it now, it's like, okay, it doesn't stand up to scrutiny. It looks very obviously wigs and makeup. And also, they seem to have made people who are meant to be 47 look like 67.
I know.
I think like Marty's maybe 47, right?
He's older than that, yeah.
Right, that's younger than me, and he looks like you look like my dad.
I know it's, and the funny thing is, of course, Michael J. Fox, he must be in his late 50s now. So it's kind of like he's like almost 10 years older than that character's supposed to be there, and he looks younger, than
I know.
But I don't know if it's that thing, like when you're younger, people at a certain age, you think they're older than they are because there feels like a big gap. So a bit like you always used to think school teachers never had a life outside school, and they were all like knitting at the weekend and stuff like that. And it's just when you get older yourself, it's almost like it's just weird, your perception.
Yeah, but a couple of cool things at the in the future sequence, the hoverboard, fantastic.
That was brilliant.
And the hoverboard, the hoverboard's great. And what was the other thing which I always thought? Oh, the trainers, the Nike trainers.
I always wanted those.
They weren't lace ones, but they kind of sealed themselves up when you put them on, didn't they? So that was pretty good. And of course, also in it had, within the future secret, had cameo appearances by Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Elijah Wood's first movie appearance, one of the kids in the 80s Metro Cafe.
Yeah, that's right.
Which was pretty. Another thing, actually, rewatching it, I just thought, see if you hadn't seen the original and you watched this movie, the sequel, you wouldn't have a clue what was going on. It doesn't really take the time to explain really what's happening. And the kind of jumping off point for it. I think you'd have a really hard time knowing what's happening.
Funnily enough, friend Alexander, he actually saw the second one first, and he actually thought it was okay. I'd find that hard. He actually found it okay, but
I would have thought so.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense.
I know the feature part, yes, what it does do is it does set up very well the rest of the movie and the plot line, which will take us ultimately to the end of this one and into the third movie. So it does a good job of that. But so we have them going back to 1985, and there's obviously an alternate version of it. What do you think of that part of the movie?
Really mixed feelings, because some of it's like you've already done that, but I think it's clever as well. But you can sort of see it's obvious when they're trying to copy something and it's not the same, or like obviously Crispin Glover.
Well, does he 55 or 85?
55. Oh, you're talking about 85? Sorry, the alternative. 85. Yeah. So yeah, it's quite interesting actually how there was a couple of deleted scenes where he goes to his school and it's all burnt down and stuff like that. No, I thought it was quite almost like a, what you call it, Twilight Zone episode type thing. I mean, they're not there long, are they? They're there, what, 10 minutes?
But not really, no.
And I suppose they see Biff,
we'll see.
who was Donald Trump, wasn't it? It was based on Donald Trump.
He becomes Donald Trump, yeah. It's, I mean, very funny and effective section of the movie, and I think Biff is really funny in that section as well.
Yeah.
But also just shows you how evil it could actually be. That bit. But I always like the part where Marty ends up by accident breaking into his own house, and there's a family living there, and the dad's on front and through the daughter's bedroom in baseball bat.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really good.
Yeah.
And I like the part
that
where
retail company
Biff gets knocked out by the door of DeLorean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we kind of take a little short detour for alternate 1985, and we end up going back again to 1955, which is one of the best lines in the movie. I think where Doc's saying, going on about all these scientific reasons about that, how that day is so important, and you know, everything seems to be a critical point in the timeline, and then he says, well, it could just be a coincidence. That's a big part. So yeah, what do you think of going back to 1955 again?
Yeah, mixed feelings. Yeah, it's funny how they're bumping into themselves, but there's part of me, because I love the first one so much, it's kind of tampering with it a bit. And they obviously try and make out that it's all connected, so they've added bits that you didn't see in the first one. I don't know if I like that, you know, like when, even at the start when they go away in the DeLorean and Biff goes, what the hell? You know, things like that. I don't know, but it's interesting and it's good, and I do like the bit about ooh la la, and then Biff, can I smell liquor? That's not liquor because I'm not allowed to drink. I'm too young or something. So yeah, it's great. That is quite funny. But I do like the chase and everything. I do like that, but there's still something mixed feelings. What about you?
For me, I mean, it's my favourite part of the movie. I mean, it is very, very clever. Obviously revisiting the same day, or one of the same days from the previous movie, using previous footage and newly shot material. And it does kind of hark back to the cleverness of the first movie. Although, yes, I agree with you, you're kind of looking for the joins, isn't it right? What was filmed in 85, what's been refilmed now, and everybody's got done up again, and maybe it looks a little bit different. So yeah, you're kind of looking for the joins there. But I think based on the technology available to them and such, like, it was quite a bold move to go back and do it, and on the whole, it does work. And yeah, maybe some of the effects are a bit ropey, but on the whole, yeah, considering it's 1989, they do a great job on that front. And I do like the part actually where Doc, obviously the lightning hits the DeLorean and Doc gets sent to 1885. Yeah. And then Marty's waiting on the road, and the courier driver comes along and delivers the letter. That's a really good moment, yeah.
That's really clever, because you're
again,
like,
just very clever. That's and you just think, well, it's only been a minute, but of course, the post office had this letter for 70 years, something like that. Yeah. This is years to me, 60 years.
Yeah.
No, it was 1885.
80 years. Is it 80 years?
Yeah, 70 years. 70 years.
70 years.
70. So no, that was cool. That was a really good moment. But I mean, you were talking about changing stuff from the first movie, and that's one of the unfortunate things with this and the third one. is that they didn't get back the likes of Claudia Wells to play Jennifer, as she was unavailable. And obviously Jennifer's Marty's girlfriend in the movie, and it had to be recast, and they got Elizabeth Shue, who's great actress. But it's a different actress, and it kind of takes you out of it.
Yeah, I just don't think it works with her.
If it had the original.
Yeah, no.
It never felt right.
She's a great actress.
Anything at all.
I know.
She is, but she looks nothing like Claudia Wells.
It's a bad wig.
So they might have been better getting somebody who actually looked like her, and maybe it would have been less distracting. And similarly, where they have recast and they did it right, which is Crispin Glover didn't come back as George McFly, and depending on who you speak to, there's everybody's got a different reason for that. But I think they actually do cover his absence well in part 2, because when you see him in the future, he's upside down, so you can't really get a good look at the actor who is playing him in that section. And then when they go back to 1985, alternate is dead. And then in 1955, they're either using footage from the first movie, where it is Crispin Glover, or they're using the other actor, but you're far enough away, or his face is obscured enough that it doesn't really make any difference whatsoever to the story they're trying to tell. So I think they covered that one really well, but the Jennifer character, they didn't.
But just going to say, Crispin Glover, he actually changed the way it works, because he sued them and he won because they were using his likeness. So they were using footage of him from the first one, but they weren't paying him. So he actually won a case that changed it, that meant that people, if they use your likeness, they have to pay you.
Which is fair enough, yeah. Okay, so we're going to rank Back to the Future 2, top, middle, or lower tier, B, T, T, F. I'm going to put this one in the lower tier, T, T, F. What about you?
I put it in the top.
Really? Okay. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a good movie. It's the weakest of the three for me, but still good. Alrighty, let's move on to the third and final movie in the trilogy.
From out of the west, in a cloud of dust, a thunder of hooves, and a mighty...
Great Scott!
I know, this is heavy.
This summer, Marty and Doc go back one more time for their greatest adventure of all. Doc's living in the past.
Just try it, Tenant!
But he's about to be history.
What kind of a future do you call that?
I'm going back to 1885, and I'm bringing you home.
It's the last roundup.
Come on, run!
It's the final showdown.
Hey, lighten up, jerk!
Where Marty makes a name for himself.
What's your name, dude?
Eastwood. Clint Eastwood.
What kind of stupid name is that?
Doc meets his mate.
You saved my life.
Emmett Brown at your service.
And Tannen meets his match.
I'll hunt you and shoot you down like a duck.
It's Dog Buford. Shoot him down like a dog.
Michael J. Fox.
Where'd you learn to shoot like that?
7-Eleven.
Christopher Lloyd.
There's a fella that can't hold his liquor.
And Mary Steenburgen.
I never ever met a man like you before.
Gentlemen, excuse me, but my friend and I have to catch a train.
This summer, Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis invite you.
Come on, Marty!
To the Rough Rider. Rip roaring, rootin' tootin', straight shooting.
Just a hold up! It's a science experiment!
Rousing conclusion of Back to the Future.
Let the festivities begin!
Back to the Future, Part 3.
Back to the Future 3 isn't necessarily a Western. It's a time travel movie with our characters that goes to the 1800s. So we'll have horses and guns and shootouts and steam trains and all that stuff. But It's the West seen through the eyes of a kid from the 80s.
What's your name, dude?
Clint Eastwood.
What kind of stupid name is that?
In as much as Back to the Future appeals to the kid and everyone, I think being a cowboy appeals to the kid and everyone. I remember when there was talk of a sequel, and they said to me, if you were going to go somewhere, where would you want to go? And I said, well, the Old West. I mean, everybody wants to be a cowboy. And they were like, yeah, we do too.
Back to the Future Part 3 looks great. It's obvious that they have spent tens of the millions of dollars they made with this series. Gorgeous Western settings. I love a nostalgic shot of Mary Steenburgen, remember, in a beautiful purple dress standing next to that green train, green railroad car. Top-flight writing and fine performances all around.
I don't know, Gene, I didn't like it as much as you did, and one of the problems is, as a Western movie, this didn't work very well. Now, if you add all of the time travel onto the top of it and your memory of the two previous movies in the series, I suppose that would help. But the problem is, this Western town is a movie Western town. It's straight out of cliches. There's even Pat Buttram drinking in the bar.
I like
along
seeing
with
him.
a couple of other guys. Dub Taylor was in the bar,
That's
too,
right.
I think.
I love seeing those
and
guys.
so wouldn't it have been more interesting if Michael J. Fox had gone back to the real Old West instead of to the movie Old West and gone back to a real time in the past rather than a fictional time in the past?
Well, he's going to a fictional time in the future when in Part 2, and you enjoyed that picture. So, the question is, was it entertaining?
Yeah, but the problem here is, you see, there isn't as much time travel or paradox in this movie. Basically, once they get back there, it becomes a Western.
Right? Yeah,
for
and I
most
like
of the
that.
time. And it wasn't a very... If this were only a Western, you wouldn't say it was a very good Western.
It's not only a Western.
But you wouldn't say it was a good Western if it were only a Western.
But it isn't only.
But it isn't. But the Western part isn't so good.
No, that's where I differ with you. The part that is a Western was very entertaining for me. I just reviewed all the parts of it. The Steenburgen and Christopher Lloyd are a lot of fun together, and he has some fun with Western conventions. The movie worked for me.
Back to the Future, Part 3 was released in 1990 and directed by Robert Zemeckis. In this final chapter, Marty McFly, Michael J. Fox, obtains a 70-year-old message from the time-traveling doctor Emmett Brown, Christopher Lloyd, in which he informs Marty that he has retired to a small town in the Old West. Marty then finds out that the doc was murdered shortly after sending the letter. In order to save his friend, Marty will have to travel back in time, disentangle a love-struck doc from a local schoolmarm, and repair the DeLorean, all while avoiding a posse of gunslingers. The movie grossed a franchise low $87 million domestically on a budget of $40. It made just over 2 times its budget and was the 10th highest grossing movie domestically of 1990. Ratings-wise, the movie has an 81% Rotten Tomatoes score and 78% audience score. It has a 7.4 out of 10 IMDb audience rating and 55 out of 100 critic Metascore. Did you know that the Saloon in 1885 Hill Valley is in the same location as Lou's Cafe in 1955, the Gym in 1985, and the Cafe 80s in 2015? And here's a movie mistake. In one shot during the aftermath of Marty's shootout with Tannen, a modern California state flag can be seen hanging from one of the buildings. This design was not developed until 1911, the original having been destroyed in the Great San Francisco earthquake of 1906. In summary, Back to the Future, Part 3 draws the trilogy to a satisfying close with a simpler, sweeter round of time travel antics.
Okay, Back to the Future 3. So we'll never forget where we first seen this, Paul, will we? In
No, we won't. On your birthday, your 16th birthday. Oh,
it was.
Yeah.
The newly opened UCI Cinema, which was 5-10 minute car rides from where we lived. And it was the first multiplex in Edinburgh, a modern multiplex cinema, and it was the first one I think we'd ever been to in our lives.
Yeah, because up to that point, I remember it being built, taking years to build that whole bit. It was becoming a bit more Americanized because traditionally cinemas were more like theatres. And then this was the first kind of multiplex that we'd been to, and thought it was so cool because it was all on one level. And there's so many screens. So, yeah, that was the very first day it opened.
And all the different kind of confectionery type things. So, yeah, it felt like very much a touch of America come to Edinburgh. a modern multiplex. It was fantastic. So what did you think of the movie? So, part 3?
I thought it was good. I remember, funnily enough, the week before it came out, because it came out in America. I already remember on America's Top 10, Casey Kasem, you would get like the movies. So you got to see bits of it, because it came out maybe May, whereas it was July in the UK. And you got to see the bit where he's doing the dance, the Michael Jackson dance, the moonwalk in the saloon. So anyway, the week before it came out, we went to Jersey, and that week before it, and I got the book. So I kind of read the story the week before I saw the film, but it didn't matter. So yeah, I liked the film. For me, it's probably the weakest of the trilogy. It just feels a bit slow in bits, but I still love it. But it's maybe the weakest. It's probably more a conventional. Although there is going back and forward, they're more in the one place in this one. So in that sense, it's maybe a bit more like the first one. But I don't know, it just lacks a bit of excitement for me.
Well, this one's immediately better than part 2 because it's got ZZ Top in it.
Yeah.
Of course, they done the theme tune for it, Double Back, which the top 10 hit or top 20 hit back in
think so,
1990.
yeah. It's
I
a
remember
great song,
buying the cassette single. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. It's a less ambitious and a less hectic movie than part 2. And that's one of the reasons I prefer it, as it's a simpler movie, a more leisurely pace, and as you identified, it's got more in common with the original movie in that Marty is a fish out of water in the wrong time and trying to get back to 1985, and just trying to fit in. Well, he manages to do that. Of course, this time round, he's also got Doc stuck in the wrong time, and Doc on a romantic interest as well, which is a first for him in the movies. So, yeah, I like westerns anyway, so I'm a sucker for a good western, and I just think this one is really funny. I like the different elements to it. I like seeing some of the characters in it. Kind of dressed up in Western style, like Strickland again, and Biff looks great in this. As the bad cowboy. I just like all that. I even quite like Michael J. Fox's Irish.
Seamus. Maggie,
Seamus McFly. Yeah. So no, I like it. I thought it was really good, and that would be after the first one, this would be next in line for me in terms of my favourites. And I like the happy ending as well, and I like Marty sees the error of his ways, chicken, and which has been a constant throughout the first two movies, 2 and 3. Obviously sees the error of his ways and changes his future, and have the happy ending with him and Jennifer and Doc, and does he get married, Doc? I know he's got the 2 kids.
Jules and
Verne.
Verne.
In the movie. Yeah, Jules and Verne. So, yeah, so the nice thing about this, though, right? We have the happy ending for all the characters, and because they've never went back and made any more, or made any prequels, or TV shows, or anything like that, it's nice, because in your head, everyone lived happily ever after. We didn't get an Indiana Jones scenario, or, a Luke Skywalker and Han Solo scenario, or a Neo, where not everyone, not Neo was happy at the end of the third main movie, but you know what I mean. It's like at least these guys got to keep their happy ending, and weren't brought back and put into peril again, so to speak. Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm just going to say, for all that it was a good film, it had maybe the worst special effects, but at the end, when Doc's falling off the train and he takes Clara away, and you're just like, why did you do that? Because you've got amazing special effects in the film, that just looks really bad. Even if they just put him on a crane or something, in the wire so you couldn't see. Could they not have done something like that? Or, but
Yeah,
that's just me nitpicking.
Doing in camera. I know, but doing in camera thing, which would have looked far better.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. So, how do you rate this one, Paul? Top, middle, or lower tier, BTT?
Middle.
You would go middle for this one. I would agree with you. This would go in mid-tier for me.
Well, that brings us to the end of tonight's reviews, but just to round things off, I thought I'd leave you with a brief preview of Steven Spielberg's Back to the Future. Actually, that's not quite right. Spielberg was only one of 3 executive producers. The director of the film, who should take the credit, was Robert Zemeckis, who also co-wrote the script. And yet the power of Spielberg's name is such that these days any film with which he's associated seems to become automatically a colossal box office hit. Such indeed has been the case in America with Back to the Future, which took even more money than the popular but deplorable Rambo. Spielberg is a modern Hollywood phenomenon, the only completely bankable name in the film industry. I reckon that if you were making a film and you let it be known that Spielberg had merely visited the set, you could look forward to box office records. I don't know what it is that he's got, but if he could only patent it, he'd make a fortune. What am I talking about? Every film he touches makes a fortune. And Back to the Future, which deals with a young boy who travels back in time to his own parents' high school days, has just made him his fortune for 1985. Until the same time next week, I'll leave you to chew enviously on that thought. Goodbye.
Like trimming the movie fat, why not check out our other podcast, Trimming the Musical Fat?
So if we're going to then rank these in terms of our favourites, I'll maybe go first. So yeah, top of the tree would be the first one, in second place would be the third one, and in final place would be the second one. And I think you were just release order, aren't you?
Yeah, chronological order, yeah. Do you know what I would love to have, just for fun, do you know what I'd love to have seen, like a book or something, or when they were filming 2 and 3, because when some of the cast were filming 2, some of them were filming 3, and the directors, I think that'd be fascinating to see what days, what things were filmed. Do you know, just because that must have been some experience, doing 2 and 3 together at the same time, and it'd be interesting to know what was the time difference between them.
Yeah, and talking about Back to the Future, you've never been on the Back to the Future ride, have you?
Oh no, it's not there now either.
I know, it was Universal.
I know, I'd love to.
It was really cool as well. Yeah, it's a shame you never got a chance. Yeah, it was good. It was good. I was glad to get her. It was really cool. And also in October, so it was 6 weeks' time, I'll be seeing Back to the Future on Broadway.
Oh, that'll be brilliant.
It does. It looks amazing. Ben's been looking at some of the videos, and I think some of the effects and everything is on the stage look absolutely incredible. So yeah,
I'd love to see it. Yeah,
looking forward to it. And obviously just a bit special because it's going to be on Broadway as well, rather than here in the UK. So yeah, looking forward to that. I'm at good seats as well. Pay the premium, but hey, how often
don't be like me. No, when we went 20 years ago, was it Phantom of the Opera, and I fell asleep.
Yeah, obviously the Phantom didn't do it for you.
No.
Yeah. So let's turn our attention to the next episode. I know we had a brief conversation about this before recording, so I think we're going to go back to James Bond for the next show to do Sean Connery's and Lazenby. So I think we've agreed for the next one we'll pick up 2 of the movies. One of them is George Lazenby's sole James Bond movie, which is on Her Majesty's Secret Service from 1969, and we'll also do an official Bond from 1983, which was the one starring Sean Connery, which is Never Say Never Again, which is an official Bond, but has obviously 007 characters in there, but played by different people, and they weren't allowed to use any of the existing James Bond music, so they can't use the James Bond theme or anything like that, which has, and well, we'll talk about it, but yeah, it means to mixed results, I will say, with it, but quite looking forward to rewatching that one again. I haven't watched it in a few years. We'll see what happens. So yeah, do come back and join us for that. And if you want to let us know what you think of Back to the Future, then please get in touch, and you'll find the details on how to do that in the show description. So until next time, keep trying.
Trimming the Movie Fat is a Stephen and Paul Nicholson production. We'd love to hear from you. Contact us by voicemail via the Spotify link in the episode description. You can email us at trimmingthemusicfat@gmail.com. Keep up to date with the show and access exclusive content by joining our Facebook group, subscribing to our YouTube channel, and following us on TikTok. You can also check out our website at trimmingthemusicalfat.com. Thanks for listening.
Hey, well, how
I just go for a
its
wee
sequel there?
Just go for a wee.
What was that the name of the sequel?
A quick wee. Back to the Toilet 2.